You're now tuned into the Real Rap Radio Show. I'm your host, Walil Archer, on down to Hott Radio. I have my special guest today. I have an author with me, Leah Bowron. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. Let the listeners know what city and state are you located in?
I live in the small town of Dothan, Alabama.
Nice. So we're going to talk about your book today called Colorblind.
Great.
Let the listeners know, how did you come up with that title for your book?
Well, it just came to me when I was writing the book, and I realized that the main character, Lisa Parker, the little Caucasian 11-year-old girl, was, for all intents and purposes, colorblind when it came to her relationship with her African-American teacher, Miss Annie Loomis. Okay. Although there were students in the school and parents of students in the school that were against Miss Loomis coming to the white school to teach, Lisa didn't feel that way, and she never felt different from Miss Loomis or better than Miss Loomis. So she was, for all intents and purposes, colorblind.
So you have two main characters. You have Lisa, and who's the second main character?
The teacher, Miss Annie Loomis.
Okay. So is this based off of a true story?
Yes, it is. It's an autobiographical novel that I wrote about my circumstances in the 6th grade in my all-white elementary school when the school board integrated the school by first bringing a black teacher to the school. This is before busing started. They started with teachers, and then 2 years later, they started busing African American students to the white schools.
Gotcha. So this is actually based off of your story with your teacher.
Yes.
Wow, that's very interesting. Okay, because I was going to ask you what inspired you to write the book, but it's based off of your own life.
Right.
Okay. Now, how challenging was it for you to remember the incidents and back in the day to write this book?
Well, some of the memories are painful to me. The bullying I endured because of my cleft palate and cleft lip. The boys in my grade would say mean things about the way my nose looked on the playground. And it was painful to relive those memories and also to remember the terrible teasing that Miss Loomis took because of the color of her skin.
Interesting. How long did it take you to write the book?
About 6 months.
And during writing the book, did you have any kind of writer's block? And if so, how did you overcome it?
Well, I wrote it the old-fashioned way. I took a legal pad and a pen, and I went to a local coffee shop, got a cup of coffee, and sat down and wrote. And I wrote, it took me about 3 days to write out a chapter. And then I would go home and type it into the computer. But I never really had writer's block. I outlined the book by the school year because I remembered like what happened at Halloween and what happened at Thanksgiving. So I outlined the book in terms of the school year and was able to keep the flow going, so I never really experienced writer's block.
Okay. Have you spoken to anyone from your school after you've written the book? And if so, have they read the book?
Yes, my best friend from school back then has read the book, and she remembered many of the same memories I had in the book. She was very excited to read the book.
Nice. Who designed your book cover?
My publisher, She Writes Press in Brooklyn, did the cover based on the symbolism of the white doves in the story.
Okay. So how many chapters is in this book?
Let me look. 21.
21 chapters?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And what chapter out of the 21 sticks out to you the most?
One of my favorite chapters is called The Midget, about a midget named Katie who had a little country store down the street from my house growing up, and the children would ride our bikes up to her store and get a piece of candy for a penny apiece. And she was so kind to the children. We all loved her very much. And that was, I think, a symbol of my loving someone who looked different from other people and accepting her the way she was.
Gotcha. So when the readers read your book, what would you like for them to take away from reading your book?
I think they should take away the resilience of Lisa and Miss Loomis in the face of discrimination that they both endured at the hands of those bullies. And the fact that Lisa was, when she saw the bullies taunting Miss Loomis, she intervened and tried to have them stopped because it hurt her so much, and she suddenly embraced courage and was able to stand up to the bullies for the first time. And I specifically wrote the book so that junior and senior high students could read it. And I thought it would be a wonderful teaching tool for them, for children nowadays, to see what children in the 1960s had to face when going to school.
Okay. Now, what was your approach when you first sat down and started to write the book?
I start by talking about a rumor that had advanced through the neighborhood where I lived by the parents of the children. And the rumor was that, a black teacher was coming to the school to teach, and they were already saying mean things about her to scare us, to scare the children. So I started with the rumor, and it got bigger and bigger as I wrote it. I had more and more adults involved in spreading the rumor, and every time one adult spread it to another adult, they added something else negative to the rumor that they had just made up. And it just showed how prejudice poisons the world.
Okay.
So I started with that, and then I got more concrete with the actual first day of school, Lisa going to school, meeting the African-American teacher, going to class, interacting with her other teachers and their comments about Miss Loomis, and it just, went on from there. The prejudice and discrimination was felt throughout the book. No matter the season of the year or the holiday coming up, the prejudice was there. It was insidious.
That had to be a hard book for you to write. Just bringing back those memories and bringing back that pain. But while writing this book, what would you say was the most enjoyable part of writing this book?
Let me look at the chapters again. I think the carnival, chapter 12, about the Halloween carnival. Halloween has always been one of my favorite holidays. And our elementary school had a big Halloween carnival with a haunted house, a cakewalk, all kinds of things for the children to do. And I remember the joy I had from going to the carnival, but then I remember the prejudice that arose at the carnival that kind of ruined the carnival for me that year. The cakewalk was ruined when the chocolate cake was compared to the color of Miss Loomis's skin and given a negative connotation, and the bullies who teased Miss Loomis when she did her open house in her classroom. I thought that was horrible.
Mm.
And they dressed up as ghosts, and they looked like they were from the KKK. And it was so scary to the teacher, and it was very scary for Lisa. She witnessed that incident, and her father was there with her. He was down the hall talking to another teacher, but she ran and got him to help Miss Loomis, and he got the boys out of there.
Okay. And as we begin to close out, I have one more question for you. What was the most rewarding part of writing this book?
I think ending on a happy note that despite all the prejudice and discrimination, Lisa survived the 6th grade and was going on to 7th grade and had more self-confidence. And Miss Loomis left teaching and began working at Head Start, where she was treated with great respect. And that was so rewarding for me to have the book have a happy ending.
Okay, and as we close out, any final thoughts or closing remarks?
No, I just am so proud of all my readers who have sent in reviews about the book or told me at book signings how much the book meant to them. That is just wonderful news to me to hear those comments.
Awesome. And where can they find your book at online?
On Amazon. And it's also available at Barnes & Noble.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to thank you so much for calling in today and sharing your book with our listeners.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
My pleasure. So you enjoy your day, okay?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So that's my time today on the Real Rap Radio Show. And I'll see you guys next time on the Real Rap Radio Show with your host, Walil Archer on Downtown Radio. Peace and blessings, everyone.